Hi everyone, I'm Lynn Woodland, and I'm the author of a couple of books about miracles. The first one is Holding a Butterfly, an experiment in miracle making. And the second one is The Breakthrough Point, a spiritual activist's guide to thriving in modern times. And both books take readers into an experiential miracle experiment. And this is the year-long Wednesday night Miracles Course class. Now, if you weren't able to attend this class live and you miss getting your own personal intuitive reading from me before class, as we do, stay until the end. And I found a way to give you all a personalized message for the week. It's kind of a fun experiment I'm doing, so stay tuned. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Lynn Woodland, and this is the weekly year-long Miracles course. We meet every Wednesday for a live class, and every session is a little bit different, has a different slant on personal and spiritual growth, all in its totality designed to help us lead miraculous lives. Not so much to manifest a result, but really change the whole fabric of our lives. Every session is a complete experience in and of itself, so you can always drop in, and at the same time, every week builds upon the last. So to get the most out of this process, come regularly. There's additional materials that go with the live classes. There's written materials. There are some recorded meditations that we've done in a sound studio with a nice music bed that are a little easier to listen to than sometimes this webinar. The recording of these live classes you'll also find there as well. And to get to all of those additional materials, there's a hidden page for every week on my website. And I'll give you the code to access that for this week at the end of tonight. Now, I think everybody here knows that we work with a seasonal kind of theme basis. So the content, the focus of each week, each month, each season is really reflective of the process of nature and the seasons. And consequently, this time of year, when summer is really, it's really about harvest time and crops are burgeoning and so much is going on in the natural world. Not when we're out there planting, really is the time when we are reaping what we've sown, whether it's a whole bed of weeds, because we haven't been out in our garden all season, or like our crops of abundant fruit and vegetables and flowers. And so this month in particular, we've been working with themes of receiving and opening to letting it in and just being in the moment and being grateful. And last week, our theme was all about receiving, passive receiving. And this week, we're focusing on maybe its more active cousin, which is asking for help. And that's what we're going to focus on tonight. Some of last week's focus on receiving and why we resist it may have brought to mind reasons that sometimes we prefer self-sufficiency. On the surface, and this can seem like a very harmless preference. We call it a good thing in our culture for the most part. However, the insistence on doing it all ourselves not only disconnects us from a lot of resources that might be there for us, it also disconnects us from the limitless resources of a higher power. And actually seeking assistance from a higher power through prayer is the focus of tonight. And this can be a really powerful vehicle for healing and for resolving even the most seemingly insurmountable problems. And of course, there are many dimensions to prayer that have nothing to do with asking for help. And we explore some of these in other lessons here. In fact, every season we have one lesson at least just dedicated to prayer. And each season is a completely different slant on prayer, depending on like the nature of the season we're in. But this week, we're going to give special attention to directed prayer. That means praying for help and guidance, as opposed to, for example, prayer as a pure communion with God. We talked about that in the winter season. Now, there's a growing body of research documenting the powerful connection between prayer and healing, and effects have been found even when the recipients don't believe in prayer or know that prayer is being said on their behalf. And if anyone wants to delve more deeply into some of the science of prayer and the research behind it, a good place to start is with the books of Larry Dossey, Dossey, Larry Dossey, MD. He's really one of the best known experts who's written extensively on prayer. One of his first books on prayer, Healing Words, is a great introduction to prayer and some of the research around it. But for all the miraculous stories of prayers answered, there are just as many that don't get answered. And that, of course, raises the question, well, why? What makes prayer work sometimes, but not other times? Clearly, prayer works. I mean, I have operated some kind of prayer ministry since 1999, and I know prayer works. We've had all kinds of miracle experiences over the years with that. But there is an art and science to it that makes some prayers simply more effective than others. And we'll actually get into this a little indirectly by first looking at how we ask for help horizontally. In other words, person to person. And we'll look at that before we explore what I think of as more a vertical connection to higher power, to spirit. If we're not accustomed to letting other people help us, learning how to ask can really be a daunting challenge. And the habit of saying no to help might be so ingrained that we're not even aware of how much we do it. Now, if this is you, you might want to think about times when help was offered and you said no, or maybe help was available, but you failed to ask. What do you recall going on in your mind at these times? Did you think maybe the offer wasn't genuine enough? Did you think it would just be easier to do it yourself? Or that the help you received wouldn't be up to your standards? Did you worry that there'd be too many strings attached to offers of help? Did you maybe feel uncomfortable that you might be drawn into a deeper level of intimacy by accepting someone's help? Or did you just feel embarrassed to let someone help you? Does asking for help feel like a sign of weakness? Now, if we've never developed a habit of asking for help, what happens typically is we wait until we just have no choice, when we're in some kind of dire, extreme circumstance. And then we just ooze desperation. and the pressure this puts on other people makes it more likely that we'll either get no assistance or it'll be given a little grudgingly, maybe a lot grudgingly. We may be we may wind up driving people away by trying to manage and direct the help that's offered so tightly that our helpers feel manipulated and, just give up. And, if we rarely ask for help, it can just be devastating to finally work up our nerve to reach out and not receive what we want in the way we want it. And then, of course, our inner dialogue tends to go something like this: I'm always there for everyone else. I always say yes. I'm always the one to extend myself and give and give and give. And the one time I ask for something, people aren't there for me. See, this is why I never ask for help. And then, of course, we never want to ask again. And in fact, by not knowing how to ask, we set people up to confirm all our worst fears. And, just kind of set people up to not be there for us, which, as I was saying, means we will just never, ever, ever want to ask again. So here's a little mini lesson in how to ask for what you want. Step one is to practice asking before you're in need. Don't wait until you're in dire crisis. And recognize that it's okay to ask because you want something. You don't really have to need it. You don't have to be in crisis. And especially when you're first learning to make a habit of asking, start with requests that don't have a huge emotional charge to them. You'll actually find the more you ask for what you want, the less you'll have to ask for what you need. Now, step two, or point number two, this isn't really a, do this, and then this. These are all important. Point number two is to give people permission to say no. In the same way that it's important for you to learn how to say no to people sometimes, and to have boundaries, it's equally important to let people say no to you without taking it completely personally and reading too much into it. If people sense that you'll feel terribly let down if they don't say yes to you in an unconditional, no matter what it is, sort of way, they'll wind up feeling manipulated and again, less willing to support you. And ask with perception that sometimes you'll hear no. Practice saying, no problem, and actually meaning it. Because when people are able to say no, they're more genuinely willing to say yes on another occasion. Now, the third point is to start appreciating the help people can give and want to give, even if it's not everything you've asked for and entirely on your terms. People, God, I have a cat eating my hair. Stop it, little cat. People may not be willing or able to give you exactly what you want the way you want it, but may still have something really valuable to offer you. Start letting go of an all or nothing stance so that you don't deny yourself the possibility of potential, gems of help and assistance and caring. You might things that you didn't realize how much you needed them until they're delivered. Now, the same is true for love and human kindnesses of all sorts. The more you cherish what's offered to you, the more you'll cherish the more you'll attract what you cherish. And gratitude has a tremendously transformative power. Finding the gift in what people have to give instead of the flaws can really heal the patterns in you that unconsciously attract a lack of support or attract the wrong kind of help. If people are giving you help, but it's all wrong, it doesn't really help, it's not what you want, that's reflecting something in you. It's not just the way the universe is set up. That's something about you. And as you change that, as you just start to vibrate in a different way, all of a sudden there will be people in your life as competent as you, offering just what you need and then some. Now, the fourth point is to be clear without being controlling. The best way to get support is to make your request specific enough that people know what you're asking of them, yet not so controlling as to leave them feeling manipulated by your request. For example, saying, going through a hard time and I could really use some support. Boom. And leaving it at that. It's really pretty vague, and someone might want to help but not really know what you want. On the other hand, asking someone to take care of your cat and plants and home while you're away and leaving 10 pages of instructions as to how and when to do every little detail may leave people never wanting to help you again. The fifth point is to ask people for things they enjoy doing and are good at giving. By matching our requests to the individual, everybody wins. Like if somebody's good with computers, ask them to fix your computer rather than to listen to your feelings. I learned a really powerful lesson around that once. A man I many years ago who I dated. It was a total mismatch, and so we didn't date for very long. And we remained friends, and he was just a gazillionaire. He had just money just coming out of his ears, and he was telling me about his new girlfriend and how he was just like telling me how all these ways he'd been lavishing her with gifts and expensive this and expensive that, and that just made me kind of scratch my head and go, you only took me to the very cheapest restaurants. You never, even my birthday, I didn't even get a card. Never spent a penny on me. Really? I never even thought about it till I saw the contrast with this new girlfriend. And I asked him, like, what gives? And then he said, well, you wanted things like intimacy and time. And I didn't have those things to give. I didn't know how to give them. I just didn't know. And my new girlfriend, she's like, I want a really expensive gift, and I want to be taken to the best restaurant, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And he's like, that's easy peasy. I know how to do that. So boom. And I said, you mean if I just ask you for an expensive gift, I could get it? He said, yeah. So I said, next time you travel abroad, I want you to get me something really pretty, some little arty object. And he did. He went to Asia. He got me this lovely carved ivory statue. I love it. It's a reminder to me of that lesson, to ask people for what they know how to give and enjoy giving rather than what they haven't a clue. Because, then you'll be happy instead of chronically disappointed. Now, the sixth point, start in small ways, reaching out to the people closest to you to ask. Now, a good way to begin to ask for help is to share with someone you trust your intention to learn how to ask for help. Ask for suggestions. That might be the first ask. Ask your friends for feedback about how easy or difficult it is to support you. They might be able to help you see patterns of behavior you're not really even aware of. So an exercise I want to suggest for this week is to practice asking people for things that they might be willing to give and good at giving. Ask for things you'd like, but don't desperately need. Ask somebody to carry something heavy for you, or to reach something on a high shelf, or to, like fix your computer if that's their thing, or give you advice on something. Ask for things you suspect people will know how to give and might enjoy giving. And And also ask without a lot of personal investment in the person saying yes. In fact, ask with the intention of collecting some no's so that you can become desensitized to hearing it and stop taking it so personally. And do this playfully. You can have fun with it. It's even okay to preface your request by letting people know that you're doing an exercise in asking for things. And, you're just stretching open to learn how to ask for help. And it's perfectly acceptable for them to say no. Now, the exercise is not over until you've received at least 2 no's. And like I said, you can be playful with this. You can engage the other person. I once gave this assignment to someone in one of my 5-day intensives, and he kept asking and asking and asking for what he thought were more and more outrageous things, trying to collect enough no's so he could, be done with the exercise. So it was kind of excruciating for him to keep asking people for stuff. But, he was having a really hard time because, to his astonishment, everyone kept saying yes and even enjoyed the opportunity to give to him. People were giving to him these really, kind of big, lavish gifts. So play with that, just have fun with it and practice asking and give people permission to say no. Now, this lesson on prayer is starting out with reaching out to other humans, because however we ask people is typically the same way we approach God. So whatever isn't working in relation to our, human peers probably isn't going to work any better with God. We often don't even think to ask God for help until we're in crisis and have exhausted all other resources. And then our prayers tend to be that, that desperation plea, like, oh, please, God, rescue me. And, God doesn't respond to that any more favorably than our friends, typically. We might pray from our fear-based need for control. And instead of praying for the highest possible outcome and really trusting God to show us what that is, we come to God with our grocery list of specific requests, saying, in effect, this and only this will do, God. This is how you have to do it, So micromanaging God doesn't work either. In this way, we wind up undermining the whole purpose and power of prayer, which is to give us what is truly for our highest good, not just the best we can imagine in the moment. And sometimes we'll try bartering, as in, oh, please, God, I'll do anything. I'll be good for the rest of my life. Just give me this blah, 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 blah. Just please, God, please, please. And these barter prayers, they're less a reflection of our trust in a higher power and really more an affirmation of our own powerlessness. And, as I keep saying, asking this way doesn't work any better with God than it does with people. And then the anger and the loss of faith we feel when God doesn't come through on our terms just leaves us feeling separate and alone in the same way we feel when our friends let us down. So there's a Bible passage, and this was coming up for me with some of you when I was doing the readings earlier. It's Matthew 7:7 that says, "Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you." Now, I believe that ask and you will receive is spiritual law. It's not a simply religious metaphor. And if it's applied correctly, it really does work. Now, obviously, there's a trick to it because, we can all name things we asked for and pleaded for and never got, Any kid who's ever made a Christmas list this long has had that experience. And The secret lies in another spiritual law, which I believe we've heard a distortion of in that familiar axiom, it's better to give than receive. I mean, who hasn't heard that one? I think that's a little bit of a distortion. I think that comes through more clearly in the modern day spiritual text, A Course in Miracles, as giving and receiving are the same. Giving and receiving are the same. If we combine ask and you will receive with giving and receiving are the same, it means our prayer requests need to offer up, in other words, to give a bit of what we're asking for in order to be truly effective. So, and I'll say that again, our prayer requests need to offer up, to give a bit of whatever it is we're asking for to be effective. Because I think spiritual law, they're absolutes. Spiritual law doesn't sometimes work and sometimes not. It's more the practitioner. Sometimes we apply it well, sometimes we're sloppy. And that's part of our human journey, right? Learning how to be masterful certainly is what we're about here. A powerful prayer is one where we create first within ourselves a bit of the peace, the joy, the love, the surrender, that's the important one, the safety and the fulfillment that we want to grow in our lives. And we give it up to Spirit like planting a seed. Because Spirit does give us what we love. And Spirit gives us what we ask for. Now here's the kicker. We demonstrate what we love and ask for it in the way we give our attention. Get that? That's a really important point. We demonstrate what we love and we ask for it in the way that we give our attention. What that means is if we approach a prayer in a state of pleading, we wind up magnifying our powerlessness. We're showing, what we're offering up is this experience of powerlessness. And we're showing by giving it our attention and amplifying it that way, we're showing where we give our love in the truest sense. When our attention is filled with wishing for what we don't have, we amplify scarcity. We're showing God that that's what we love. When we're focused on all of our complaints, we increase what's wrong. God answers our prayers by giving us more to complain about. When we wallow in resentment and self-pity, we create more isolation and more lack of love. And when we dwell in our worries, we feed our fears. Our prayers get answered by reflecting more fear, more things to be afraid of. And as we give our attention in all of these ways, we demonstrate that we love our pain more than peace. And, so is it any wonder that God answers our prayers by giving us more of the same? Now, if our prayers are not being answered in the way we would like, we need to change the way we're asking. And we might need to do a 180 turnaround to turn pleading prayers into giving prayers. This means replacing disempowered wishing with gratitude, with giving thanks for unanswered prayers as though they've already been fulfilled. Isn't that kind of a law of attraction 101 principle? Give thanks as though it's already happened. So instead of wishing, For what's not there, give thanks for for what is there now and what's to come. Um, we can turn complaining into something more powerfully creative by focusing on what we can do in a situation rather than what's wrong with it. And we can change resentment into forgiveness. And if it's hard to forgive, I always say start with yourself. And if that's still hard, ask yourself frequently, would you rather have God answer your prayers by proving you right in all of your resentments or by making you happy in your forgiveness? And when we find our mind crowded with worries, this is really the time to apply faith, to really surrender and have faith, because we can always reach up to a higher power. Recognize that personal power may not be enough to get us through, but divine power always is. So don't ask spiritual assistance only for the big things, or only when you've completely run out of steam. God isn't put out by our frequent requests. God is our higher power. Our higher power is the God within us. Why save our most efficient and true power source for only the most occasional use? And this is about mastery again. When you're learning to drive a car, you practice in little ways at first. First, you're just practicing on the parking lot. You don't necessarily plunge out into the 70-mile-an-hour highway until you've had a little bit on the. So it's okay to start asking for small things. Hail Mary, full of grace, help me find a parking place. I love that one. I'm a big Hail Mary fan, so I'm definitely going to use that one. Um, yeah, start by asking God to help you find your lost car keys or a good parking place. Yeah, Edie says it works. Yes, it does. In fact, a woman in my group years ago once shared that after hearing me suggest asking God for a parking place, she did, because every day it was a challenge. And it worked the first time, and then it just worked every time thereafter. And just as with people, it's a good idea to cultivate the habit of asking by starting with things that aren't so earth-shaking. The more we see our small requests answered, the more we'll be able to call forth a peaceful, confident state for the heftier ones. Now, when it comes to prayer, a question that always comes up somewhere along the way is, what are we praying to anyway? And though the language of asking God may seem to portray God as something or someone very personal, the way we conceive of the vast, really limitless mystery of spirit might be different for each one of us. And for some, imagining a very personal and benevolent God looking out for us may be a really comforting image. It might really help to heal wounds of isolation. Now, for others, the idea of a personalized God that exists outside of us somehow might feel disempowering because it affirms our separateness from God and our lack of personal responsibility. And still, others of us may have so many negative associations with the whole notion of God that a radically different concept is more appealing. Now, there are some New Thought spiritual paths that even feel it to be counterproductive to acknowledge through any kind of language or practice that there's any duality at all between self and God. Science of mind, like religious science. There's one pastor, I know of who always starts his sessions with, I am God. Oh my God, I have a cat who's literally pulling my hair out. Sorry. Sorry, people. That really hurt. I have little cats now. Um, and, the idea isn't that I'm God and you're not. The idea is that I'm God as we all are. So, I encourage each of us to see what feels best to you in terms of the concept and the language that you give to God. Higher power, higher self, the light, spirit, creator, Jesus, goddess, angels, divine love, Gaia, Mother Earth. These are just a few of the ways I've heard people address God, think of God, the field, the 0 point field. Um, you know, find your own language and concept. And in fact, in the winter season, we even did a whole session about letting God come to us anew, letting everything we ever thought we knew or believed about God go, and to see how God shows up to us today. So I think it's a good thing to now and then just let go of everything you've ever been taught and find the way into spirit that's right for you. And the form and language of prayer is uh, very individual. Many people find they have to let go of the recited prayers they learned as children in order to approach prayer in a fresh, meaningful way, while others find traditional prayers comforting. And these recited words can either feel very hollow and need to be discarded, or they can just feel like a very well-worn path that's been traveled so often through repetition by you and gazillions of others that they become a very quick route into a prayerful state. Now, as I was saying, even though I wasn't raised Catholic, I find this is true for me with the Hail Mary prayer. It just takes me right there. It takes me right out. Even though I remove the word sinners from my recitation. I don't quite believe in sinners myself. Um, Prayer is conversation and communion with God. Those aren't quite the same thing. Conversation and communion. Conversation is still has that duality in it. Communion is when we become one with God. Different kinds of prayer. We talk more about the communion kind in the winter, and use whatever means assist you in this. Your prayers might be long conversations, or as simple as "Thank you, God." They may use sound, song, chanting, drumming, music. Even the whole notion of asking is deceptive. Just as the seemingly clear concepts of giving and receiving eventually blur into the experience of joining in unconditional love, as we look more deeply into them. So the act of asking, when it's really infused with spirit, morphs into being rather than doing, where we become the inner peace of our prayer, of our prayer already fulfilled. We become that inner state. And the state of being becomes a creative act of consciousness that acknowledges a spiritual reality, the reality that all we need is here now, and draws to us the fulfillment of this in the physical world. That is how God knows how to answer our prayer, because we have embodied that state of being. And then God just, answers our prayers with all the circumstances that match that inner state of being that we have offered up. So here's if you're not all that familiar with prayer, if you don't have a prayer routine, here's just a format or just some steps for how to go about it. First, identify a prayer request, and we'll be doing that here in a little bit for ourselves. I think identifying a desire for assistance is helpful in that it directs intention and focus toward the issue. And actually writing it in words can make that even stronger. This starts your creative and healing energy moving in the direction of your intent. The next step is to just quiet your mind. Always begin your prayer period with anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes of quiet meditation, and use this time to really quiet any thoughts or emotions that feed into feelings of hopelessness or powerlessness or fear. And you can read inspiring words or listen to music or recite meaningful words of prayer or affirmations or mantra, or just sit in quiet meditation, emptying your mind, or do whatever else helps you to shift attention away from the perceived limitations of your situation and toward the limitlessness of God. You can even do a walking meditation in nature, walk around a lake and just really be present in that process. The third step is to identify with your always whole and healed spiritual self. Imagine that you are, or if you're praying for someone else, that they are too already whole and healed. And in this way, you magnify the healed self rather than your perception of dis-ease. So go into your wholeness and start your prayer there rather than uh, starting from your place of lack. Again, that's about cultivating a different state of mind and state of being. And if you're praying for another person, imagine your whole, healed, higher self joining with theirs, and in this way invoking their highest healing power as you also affirm your own. Now, the fourth step is to become the prayer. That means, as I've been describing here, fill yourself with the inner experience of peace and love and healing. If you're praying for another person, let your own feeling of well being overflow to include them. Next step, this is sometimes the hardest, let go and let God. Really let go of expectations of how and when your intention will be fulfilled. If you pray for the highest possible outcome, you won't be disappointed. If you pray for very specific results in a specific time frame, you're much more likely to feel that God isn't listening. God gives us what is truly for our highest good. And that's not always what we most want in the moment from more of our human sensibilities. Sometimes the path that's ultimately going to lead to the highest joy requires letting go of something we're attached to. We may need to release an unhealthy relationship or job or cherished but unrealistic goal or state of mind or some inner pattern before we can have something better. To have our prayers answered, we need to stop telling God what to do. And this is equally important when we pray for another person. Instead of praying for someone to heal in a specific way, ask that they now heal in the highest possible way. Now, the sixth step is to then find signs of success. As soon as you complete your prayer period, shift your attention from the dis-ease in your life to the signs of healing. And don't look for them, with a prove it to me attitude. Instead, find signs everywhere. Just really go out of your way to find the signs of healing. In the same way, a teeny tiny little shoot doesn't really look like an ear of corn or a beautiful rose in bloom. It still needs to be recognized for what it is in order to be cultivated. If we ignore it, if we step on it, If we don't nurture it when it's in that fragile state, well, it's never going to get to the ear of corn or the beautiful rose bush stage. The first signs of healing need that same recognition and kind of a nurturing. The more signs you find, the more there are going to be. Now, many of us have such an ingrained habit of paying attention to everything wrong that even when healing and miracles start to happen, we still wind up giving more attention to our problems than our blessings. What we give attention to, we make bigger. Consequently, if we give our problems most of our attention, we grow more unhappiness. And we don't really give healing a chance to take root. So, step number 7, last but not least, practice gratitude. Through prayer, which what you're doing is planting this very precious little seed of healing. And it's your gratitude that nurtures its growth. Give thanks for the blessings that exist in your life now, and give thanks for signs of growth and success, and give thanks for all the blessings to come, even the ones that have not yet manifest. Give thanks for them as though they already have. Your gratitude is very magnetic. It speeds up the fulfillment of your prayers. So now we're going to put all this into practice and begin by writing down a prayer request. And make this personal rather than related to healing someone else. If your focus is all about someone, if that is your issue, really make your request more about supporting the highest good for both of you. In whatever way is God's will. Have it be about God's will unfolding rather than trying to make something happen in a particular way for another person. Just take a moment to do that. All right, and then just put that aside and close your eyes. Mm. Take some deep breath and just inhale deeply and exhale just as deeply. Just quiet your mind, relax your body, and let yourself just be in the presence of God in whatever way is meaningful to you. And just as you do this, softly let your awareness expand to include your higher self. That spark of the divine within you, the beautiful, radiant being of light, the part of you that is always whole and perfect and undisturbed by the ripples and issues and limitations of human experience. And see the higher selves of other participants in this course. now joining you. We've all gathered once again beyond the illusionary limits of space and time, coming together to assist each other in healing. Because together we form such a powerful circle to do all kinds of spiritual and healing work. And first you see those who are here tonight. And then, of course, because in the spiritual realm, time is illusionary, you also see the lights of all the souls who have in the past and will in the future gather in the circle created by our intent. And just recognize how much more powerful we are together. Our joined intentions quicken our growth so that whatever has seemed difficult in the past can now come more easily. And just take a moment to really feel the energy of the circle getting stronger and stronger. And just imagine that we are surrounded and immersed in the presence of God. In fact, you may see angelic figures or beings of light or specific religious figures, master teachers. Or you might envision this in a more abstract way, simply as the light of divine love, the universal source, the higher mind. And imagine this presence to be wholly benevolent, completely devoid of any judgment or punishment, and highly responsive to our desires for assistance. And know that this spiritual presence is always with us, even if we aren't always open to perceiving it or allowing it to be with us and support us as fully as it could. It's always there, guiding us, loving us, taking great joy in our many earthly experiences of life. And it really doesn't see us in terms of successes and failures. Instead, it sees us deepening through our experiences, just becoming richer and more complex as souls. So just feeling yourself completely surrounded by the peacefulness, the presence of this loving spirit. Just bring your prayer intention gently to mind. Just hold it lightly in your thoughts, just like you would a butterfly. It'll just come to light in your hand for a moment. Just hold it with that same sense of stillness and presence and wonder. And look deeply into this request to discern what's at the heart of it. What are you truly calling out for? Is it the joy? Is it freedom? Or healing, or ease, or love, or security, or inspiration, or forgiveness, or peace, or creativity, or empowerment, or fill in the blank. What is it that you're truly calling out for? And whatever it is, find a bit of that joy and wholeness that you want. Find it already living inside of you and grow it bigger, so that you fill yourself with the inner experience of having your request already fulfilled. Becoming the fulfillment you desire, remember that's how God hears your request. So make it loud and clear. And just let the energy of fulfillment just flow into gratitude. Let it just, all that joy, let it just turn into gratitude and ripple that outward as a gift back to spirit. Because this vibration of gratitude really creates the inner state of willingness and availability to healing. It gives God an open door and permission to speed up your transformation. So just take this moment to really let any burdens or worries just be lifted from your shoulders. Hand it all over. Let your heart just simply feel light and overflowing with love. And know that this benevolent presence of God is working with you on so many levels, mostly outside of your awareness, but on so many different levels, all aimed to assist your growth in the most efficient and effective way, and to become conscious of the process, or as conscious as you can right now. Just let your body relax completely. Breathe. Let your mind become soft and open. And ask to hear or feel or be shown whatever you most need to know at this time for your highest good. Ask to receive guidance. And if nothing comes consciously at this point, don't worry about this, because you are receiving a transmission. Doesn't matter whether at the conscious level or not, you'll get what you need from it. And then just let go of your own request. Because what we're going to do next is to offer prayer on behalf of others. And start by just bringing to mind our circle here of all of the many Miracles Course students, past, present, and future. Just see this very vast circle. And then bring to mind any individuals in your life who you would like to hold in prayer. People you love, people you love to hate, people you'd like to assist in healing. Sometimes praying for the ones we love to hate is the quickest path to our highest good. They're always some of the most important teachers. So bring to mind all those individuals in your life. And then finally bring to mind the world at large, letting your mind touch lightly upon areas and issues in need of healing, and hold issues lightly in peace, rather than kind of clutching them darkly in despair. Just see groups of people that you would like to bring healing to, areas of the world, issues affecting the world. Just let all of this come to mind. And then with all of these individuals and groups and causes all in mind, softly, don't need to strain around this, very softly. keeping it all there with you. Next, I invite you to just really let in, along with me, the words of the following healing decree. In your mind, just really give power to the words as you listen to them. Here we go. Let our hearts and minds now unite with all others in service to divine will, making us an unstoppable force as we decree, by the grace of God, divine love now heals and guides all those in this circle who have prayed for help. By the grace of God, divine love now heals and guides every member of our personal communities. By the grace of God, divine love now heals and guides all life on earth. Thank you, Divine Spirit. We have faith in the reality of miracles. We believe in the power of love. We surrender to divine will. Let the divine design now manifest. Just breathe deeply and just bring your prayer time to a close by thanking all the others in this circle. Just breathe. Just return your attention to the room around you. And as you go about the rest of your evening, really feel the presence of God with you. And also imagine the whole burden of unresolved issues just lifted, poof. Just feel yourself lighter. You don't have to believe any of this is real. Just imagine that your prayer request has been heard and is being acted upon. And just practice gratitude and notice all the blessings and signs of success that come your way. Let go of expectations and be open to miracles. So just take this meditation and be in silence afterwards. So I'm not going to open it up to sharing this week. But if you have anything left, email me. Always happy to hear from you. You're always welcome to come half an hour early and either get a little intuitive reading or just ask questions about the content. Chat me up about anything. I don't care. I'm here for you and however I can be of help. So with that, I'm going to call it a night. I would just really keep more of the prayerful place with you as you go into the rest of your evening. Take it into dream time. Go back into the meditation, the ask and you shall receive, the cultivating within that little kernel of the fulfillment that you are asking for in your prayer. And, open to miracles. So, until I see you again, everybody, I love and bless you. Take care. I'll see you next week. Namaste, everyone. Hey, everyone. I'm experimenting a little bit here with a new way of delivering personalized, intuitive messages to any of you who want one. So sorry I can't be with you live, but I know the power of synchronicity. It will find you when you ask for it with sincere intent. So I trust that these messages will be right on for you. And I've been doing this using various oracles I've created. I think today I'm just feeling that everybody needs a blessing. So I'm going to use this oracle. You see, there are a lot of blessings in here. I'm going to use this along with a bit of synchronicity, just to personalize these messages, find out what your blessing is and what it's about. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. Relax. Stretch a little bit. My neck's kind of stiff. Relax it. You might do that too. Relax your shoulders. You know, just let everything go so that you can turn your attention inward for a moment. Just imagine that your higher self is going to whisper something in your ear. You might think of it as God or your guardian angel or just a wiser part of you. And you're going to receive a message that you need, a message that's going to help you with whatever is most important to you in your life. So you might give some attention to what's up for you, what's important, what you most need to get clear about, or manifest, or heal. See what's most important, and ask Spirit to give you the message you need to help you grow into your highest good most efficiently and effectively. And now that you've just cleared your mind a little bit, gotten focused, hold an intent for the most helpful information. Now pick a number between 1 and 12. Let it just come to you. Don't struggle or strain around it. See what's there. Just come. If there's more than one number, you know, it's okay. But let one of them just step forward as the most important. And actually write that number down, even if you just, write it in the sky with your finger. Make sure you really kind of hold it down to earth so you don't play with yourself and decide, I like that blessing better. It's for me. Sometimes we like to do that. We go for the blessing our ego wants, not the one Spirit has for us that we really need. And sometimes if there's two competing numbers, the second one might be important for you too, in a lesser way. Let there be one primary number. And now here's your messages. If you pick number 1, these are kind of sticky. I'm going to read the full copy of this. Each one of these has a unique blessing and some copy that remains the same for all of them. So I'm going to read the whole thing. Because what blessing does God have for you right now? What blessing does life most hold for you? It may be a gift you need to recognize and receive deservingly. It might be the hidden blessing that a difficult situation offers, if you would only see it. Know that this message came to you today as a signal that opening fully to this blessing will help your highest good to unfold. In other words, this isn't something you have to work for or struggle to get. This is something that is right there for you, that you already have. The challenge might be to recognize it, to receive it, to really take it to your heart. Sometimes, these blessings are things we so take for granted. We don't think of it as our hidden power, but they are. And God is saying, acknowledge this, let it in, use it, because that's what's going to take you the next step to where you want to go. Okay, here's the blessing. The blessing of freedom from pain like that one. We'll go more quickly through these now that I've read the first one. If you pick number 2, the blessing of freedom. If you picked number 3, oh, 2 blessings came up. If you picked number 3, you actually got 2 messages at once. So I would just take them together as one message. The blessing of inspiration and the blessing of forgiveness. Kind of an interesting combo. If you pick number 4, you have the blessing of energy. That's what you need to really rely on and use, and it's going to take you where you want to go. If you picked number 5, the blessing of magnetism. You have the power to draw things and people to you. So use that. Sometimes that means we need to just attract rather than go get. Sometimes that go get energy can actually push things away. But if we realize how magnetic we are, we need to do very little. You pick number 6. You have the blessing of perfect endings and perfect beginnings. Now, if you pick number 7, you have the blessing of receptivity. If you pick number 8, you have the blessing of empathy. And if you pick number 9, you have the blessing of new experiences. If you have the number 10, oh, I like this one. You have the blessing of ease. I always want that. If you pick number 11, you have the blessing of flow. Very close to ease, but it's a little different. A little bit different. Now, if you pick number 12, you have the blessing of feeling accepted. Oh, that's kind of a nice one. Well, there you have it. Everyone, I love and bless you all. Really take those blessings to heart, even if you feel like, wait a bit. See if it doesn't come back to you in ways you wouldn't expect. Maybe write it down and, chew on it a bit, play with it. Maybe take it to sleep with you and see where it goes. All right, until next time, everybody, I love and bless you. Namaste.